Hey everybody, welcome to You Can Cook Anything. I'm recording this video with a voiceover because when I initially made the footage, the sound was terrible, so I hope you don't mind. This video is about me taking my sourdough baking outside to the grill. So it was a pretty hot day the other day, and I did some pizza baking earlier in the day.
Molten cheese erupts, seething crust, volcanic flame, ashes to dust.
That turned out great, so I decided why not continue to not heat up the house and try baking some sourdough outside. I usually bake my sourdough in a cast iron Dutch oven, and I preheat the Dutch oven to about 475 degrees. Then I drop the sourdough, or I lower the sourdough loaf into it, and it gets a nice initial burst of steam with the cover closed on the Dutch oven. And so what I decided to do out here was, I wasn't sure what the temperature of the grill would be after we ate dinner and the coals were just out there for a couple of hours. But I knew it was hot enough to bake something. So I decided to lower my dough into a cold Dutch oven, extend the initial baking time by 30 minutes, and then kind of give it some time and check on it a few times to see if the crust would darken. And that's what I proceeded to do. So here I've lowered the dough into the Dutch oven, and it's so much easier when it's cold. And then I proceeded to score the dough, which is intended to give the loaf a place to expand in a predictable way. So really what it does is it helps the loaf expand in a way that makes the loaf a little bit prettier when it's done. I used my usual 74% hydration white bread flour dough, and so this is a pretty standard dough for me. Once the loaf is scored, I placed it on the grill, or I placed the Dutch oven on the grill, and I placed it on top of a little, I don't know what you call this thing, I guess it's like a grate or a trivet on top of the pizza stone. I wanted there to be some airflow underneath the Dutch oven just to help prevent the bottom from burning if the temperature happens to be really hot. All right, so now I'm closing up the cover of the grill, and we're gonna let it go for 30 minutes, and we're gonna see what it looks like after those 30 minutes are up. Okay, so 30 minutes are up. It's time to take a look at what the result of the initial baking was with the lid on. And we're going to get a look at what kind of expansion we got. Hey, that's not bad. That's a pretty good expansion. We had some oven spring in there. You can see along the scoring where the loaf expanded. And it's very blonde at this point because it's been steaming, and that's pretty normal. So what we're going to do is give it a chance for that crust to darken up by giving it a half an hour from this point to continue baking. All right, it's been a half an hour, what is usually final baking with the lid off, to darken the crust. So let's see what that crust looks like. Well, it has darkened a little bit, we can see. I would say it's still very blonde, and it would need more time in a hotter oven to really darken up. So I think what we'll do at this point is give it, let's say, 20 more minutes to develop some color. It looks like the temperature inside the vessel was only about 270 degrees, which is definitely enough. Yeah, we're getting like readings around 300, measuring around between 275 and 300 degrees, 320 degrees. So it's definitely enough to bake a loaf, but it's going to take a lot longer, and you're probably not going to get as dark a crust. In order to tell if it's really baked, we need to check the internal temperature, and yep, it's well over 200 degrees, and so we know that the inside is done, but we still have a ways to go for the crust if we'd like it darker, and I figure let's give it that chance. So I'm going to close it up and give it another 20 minutes to see if we get a darkened crust. Well, I was losing the light, so I moved the grill under a lamp, and here it is. Well, in the dark and under the lamp, it looks quite a bit darker, but really it didn't get that much darker. It's still a pretty blonde loaf, as you're going to see from the indoor pictures. I think we're going to call it quits with baking this. Now I'll remove it from the Dutch oven, and we're going to let it cool, and we'll come back when it's cool for the slicing. And here is our loaf the next day. So let it cool overnight. You can see it's some decent color on the bottom, but it's not too thick, and it's very light on top. Let's take a look at what's inside. Oh, you can see as I'm cutting it, the crust is very soft. And there's the crumb. Take a look. So I was pretty happy with how this experiment went. I got a softer crust, which is going to be great for sandwiches. And I found out that even at lower temperatures, you just give it some extra time and the bread turns out fine. So that, on the one hand, that's an option for a softer crust, which might be great for some application. And on the other hand, I think I learned that I need to put a probe inside of the grill if I want a more crisp crust, and that's what I might do next time. So overall, what I think I've discovered is that this is a viable method for baking bread in the summertime. I hope you enjoyed this video and maybe learned something like I did from it. If you did, please give the video a like. Please subscribe if you haven't already. I'm going to try doing more videos like this over the summer as time allows and as I experiment and mess around with different things. If you have something specific that you would like to see, please comment directly on the YouTube video. In fact, all of your feedback, please give it to me directly on the YouTube video comments so that both Bob and I can see them, and we'll read them and consider making videos that you might be interested in. For instance, if you want to see more of my sourdough baking method or any bread baking method that I've been doing, please let me know. All right. Thanks. Give it a like and subscribe. I appreciate you stopping by. And remember, you can cook anything.